exhaust for the S650 Mustangs, and this exhaust is from AWE, which is one of my favorite exhaust companies. We've worked a ton with AWE on our Bronco build, and this is Sarah from AWE.
Hey guys.
And she's gonna tell you a little bit about what we have on our table here.
Cool, so we have SwitchPath system for the quad tip GT. It is an active exhaust from the factory, so the SwitchPath version of this exhaust does have valves in both sides. We also have a track, we also offer a track edition in case you want to forgo those valves. But another really cool thing about this system is the H-pipe. It's a 3-inch H from start to finish, and the way that we adapt it into the stock exhaust are with these removable adapters. So if you did want to get a little spicier upstream, you can do a full 3-inch setup. We give you that option as well. It's quad 4-inch tips available in the chrome silver or diamond black. And then resonated mid-pipes, which are not on the table right now.
As far as this exhaust goes, I know you said the H-pipe is going to be 3 inches. What about the rest of our exhaust here?
All 3-inch.
All 3-inch all the way back?
Yep.
Awesome. All right, so the entire exhaust diameter is 3 inches. Now, what is the exhaust made out of?
Sure, so it's T304L stainless with a wall thickness of 0.065 inches. So using those high quality materials and then a thicker wall, that helps us get that deep sound that everyone's after. And it's also sourced and made in the USA right over in Horsham, Pennsylvania, so not too far from you guys.
Oh, awesome. We always love a product that's made in the US. Now these are going to be perfect for you guys that have an active exhaust on your S650 already, but want it to be a little bit louder. And there are going to be some other pieces to actually delete this part of the exhaust and make the S650 even louder than it already is.
Absolutely. So this will work seamlessly with your factory valving. You can still use all of your modes. It's a simple plug and play straight into your wiring harness. Now, if you're looking for rowdy all the time, we do have the track edition, like I mentioned, and that's essentially just a straight piece of piping that deletes this muffler as well as the valve. So a little bit of something for everybody.
Well, let's throw the S650 up in the air, rip off the factory exhaust, and get this new AWE one installed.
Let's do it.
So our S650 has a resonator delete, but it's always better to have a full exhaust system on your Mustang, especially to have that full power. So we're gonna end up taking all of this off, which is very easy. We're gonna start off with these 4 15mm bolts first.
We have a 13mm socket. We're going to remove these 2 bolts here. There's still a little hanger piece on these brackets, so our exhaust will stay up until we unhook that.
All right, so now we're going to start disconnecting the exhaust here a little bit. You can slide it forward. And then once you're out of the exhaust clamps in the back here, you should be able to pull it down. Before we remove our entire factory exhaust here, what we're gonna wanna do is disconnect the wiring harness on either side that goes to the active module. So you're gonna pull back on this white tab. Once you do that, push down. There are gonna be some plastic clips holding in the wiring harness. Once you pop those out of the clips, then you can pull the exhaust down, but make sure you do this on both sides of the Mustang.
So now that we have the factory exhaust removed, we can start to install the AWE system. We have these 2 adapters that we talked about earlier, and these are just gonna adapt down to your factory clamps to allow you to work with factory components upstream. And then we have the H-pipe. You wanna make sure your clamps are on here before, don't make that mistake. You can also put them on the front of the H if you prefer. And then we're gonna go ahead and line that H-pipe up top. Thank you. There we go. We're gonna snug up the factory sleeve clamps just slightly so it will hold it in place better. Again, we're not gonna tighten everything down completely until the very end. Before we get to our resonated axle pipe sections, wanna make sure to slide those clamps over the H.
Once you get the passenger side pipe on, you can use the factory exhaust hangers to connect to the subframe. And once you do that, you can start putting on the driver's side piece of the exhaust. Again, using that factory exhaust hanger. Before moving on, I'm going to loosely put in the bolts for the factory exhaust hangers to the subframe.
Now we can get to the SwitchPath or track sections. Regardless of which exhaust you have, the install will be the same. And a good way to know what side is at the badge will always be on the driver's side. So we're starting over here. Don't forget that clamp.
I'm going to slide it into the hanger first and then connect it to the exhaust. So here's going to tighten down this exhaust clamp, not all the way, just enough to hold the exhaust up and in place. Now before we adjust our exhaust and tighten everything down, we're going to plug in our factory wiring harness to the AWE actuator. It's pretty simple, just plug it in, and once you plug it in, push down that white tab. Then we can move on to our next step. The factory wiring harness for the active exhaust is a little long, so you can take a zip tie and go through the frame rail up here and zip tie the wiring harness out of place. That way it's not on any object that's getting hot. First thing I'm going to do is tighten down the exhaust hangers that go to the subframe. While you're doing this, hold the exhaust into place.
We're going to start with the factory clamps, but while we're working up here, we want to take a second look at the H and make sure it's sitting flat. If it's not, you can rotate it until it is. Next up, we're moving on to the AWE clamps. Now there is a proper way to position these. You want to make sure the opening of the clamp is not over top of one of the slots. And you want to hang this clamp just about 1/8 inch over the edge of the actual end of the pipe. So as we're tightening everything down, you want to keep an eye on all of your clearances. Double check that each piece is sitting how you'd like it to sit. Take a glance at your hangers. You want them to be parallel to the ground. And take a look at the tip outlets as well as we're tightening it down. If you need to adjust them, there is a rotation in these mid pipes here. So you would just loosen, rotate up or down to keep your tip outlets flat, and then keep going with your install.
We're going to start tightening down the rest of the exhaust system here.
Now these were offset from the factory, so we're going to keep that styling, but again, these are depth adjustable, so you can kind of set them wherever you like. I usually set them complementary to the bumper and just slightly offset to one another. After you have everything in place, it's always good practice to take a look at all of your clamps, make sure everything is sitting properly, and then go ahead and tighten those down all the way to finish up your install.
So we're all wrapped up with the AWE SwitchPath exhaust on our S650, and I gotta say, this exhaust is absolutely awesome. It sounds good, it can be quiet when you want it to be, but you can also make it loud whenever you want to be as well too. That's one of the best parts about having an active exhaust on these brand new Mustangs, and I'm just glad that AWE can make an exhaust that's compatible with it. Now, as far as the install, we maybe knocked that out in, what, about an hour?
Definitely helps have a second set of hands since that stock exhaust is one big piece, but yeah, if you have a buddy and you're gonna do the adjustments underneath, it's a pretty quick install. Yeah,
like I said, about an hour and you'll get that install done. Now, if you wanna purchase one of these AWE exhausts, we're gonna leave a link down below in our description. They're officially live on our website, so definitely go and pick one up for your Mustang today.